Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers experience with myself, Adam Strong. And today we have another amazing show and another amazing guest that we have here. And today we have the amazing John Spencer Williams, who is the author of Fuck Work, Let's Play. Do what you love and get paid for doing that. John's book actually it was voted by WHSmith as Business Book of the Month and has also been translated into 10 different languages. John has started his career working for the BBC in the special effects as a programmer and had translated and became a senior consultant for Deloitte before he declared with a stake in the ground and said, guess what? I will never want a job again, and I will never work and get a job again. So John, to his word, of course, has founded the Ideas Lab, which I absolutely love, where he helps a lot of people like you guys, business owners, startups, create a business what they love. And you know what's really interesting? John recently come connected, and I love his aura of authenticity. Is really and just a really casual guy that just generally loves what he does. And it's just really interesting who meet here on the show. And some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, ladies and gents, is we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the catalyst and the triggers that got John from what we call the corporate world, right, into the entrepreneurial world, because they're two very, very different worlds. And what the catalyst was that we're going to talk about 10 secrets. So John actually discovered 10 secrets in his book, and we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about how to get paid for playing, right? I think that's such an awesome question. And the other thing we're going to be talking a little bit about the attributions or the attributes of players who want to play, right? Play and do business and have fun. That's what it's all about, and I see so many people struggling and so many people like really work their cotton socks off. And you can see that they're trying to grow their business, but they're not having any fun with it. And I'm just kind of like, doesn't it defeat the object type of thing? Anyway, I'm digressing. For you guys that are listening in, as I always say to you guys that are listening in live, please do me a favor. I would like you to use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay, and you can do that here. Use the hashtag live, hashtag replay. And if you have any questions or comment on the comment section below, as I say to you guys, please do me a favor. Please like, share, or comment on the comment section below, and we'll answer any questions or comments that you have for John. We'll make it this fun, make it this interactive, and so forth. If you are unable to watch the live stream show, of course, feel free to come check us out over on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast platforms, of course. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect with John on social media. All his social media links will be below, and you can check out his link to his book. It'll be on WHSmith, Barnes & Noble, etc., etc. Anyway, I want to get straight into today's show. I'm looking forward to today's conversations. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. Very good introduction.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I've done this about 1,000 times, John. I hope that I'm not out of tune and stuff like that. But it's great to connect on here.
Yeah, I'm liking the StreamYard thing as well. It's very cool. You got it with the logo and everything. Very slick.
Definitely. It's interesting because there's one thing that we share quite common and something that you've really embraced, which is the whole kind of digital nomad lifestyle. Talk to me about the digital nomad, because do you know what I mean? It's like, for me,
I thought you were going to talk about hairstyle for a minute there, Adam. I thought you were
we are going to talk about hairstyle.
Yeah. Well, I'm a part-time digital nomad, and I'm based in London. I'm based near Shoreditch in East London. And I like where I live, but I really don't like the British winter, which goes on for about 6 months. And it's not that severe by some standards, like even by New York standards, for instance, but it just goes on and on and on. It really did this year as well. So what I try to do is I try to go away for a month or two every winter. So the longest period I've been away for is 2 months in one go. I went to Bali in 2019, 17, I can't remember.
Okay.
And but I always go away for at least a month. So the beginning this year, I went to Playa del Carmen in Mexico, and
nice.
And then a friend invited me to take part in a mastermind, and you're into masterminds, in Thailand. And so I went over to Thailand because I couldn't resist it, and I avoided another 10 days of utterly miserable weather in Britain. And so that's what I do. And you can now, if you choose a location that's popular with digital nomads, you can basically touch down not knowing anybody, or I can anyway, and you get on the right WhatsApp group and you have an instant social life. So I mean, I'm not the most extrovert person in the world. So I'm not one of those people who can just go on holiday on their own, sit at the bar and like start chatting to a stranger. But if I'm in a digital nomad community and we're all there, most of them are traveling independently, so people are pretty open to talking, then I find it quite easy. And it's there is an entire community around the world, and there are well-established places that are known to be good for digital nomads. They're reasonably affordable. They have co-working space, they have good Wi-Fi, and they have a community of other nomads that you can hang out with. I mean, you can go anywhere in the world that's got decent Wi-Fi, but if you actually want to connect with other people and have an instant community, then you can look them up on nomadlist.com, and just, week by week they change. Like Bali is less hot than it used to be. It's not as cool. It's not as fashionable as it used to be because it's a bit too busy. Playa del Carmen has come up, and bits of Phuket are now interesting to people. It kind of changes from month to month. It's interesting.
Love it. It's interesting because I get so many questions. Obviously, like you, I like to travel as well and have a bit of fun and play and things like that, because life's too short, right, John? I mean, but then they're like, how do you do it? You're like, you've got, because I've got 4 kids, by the way. How do you do it? You've got 4 kids. You get to travel. You get to go and have some fun and whatever it is. Like, some of us have to work here. I'm like, I am working. Do you know what I mean?
And I do, and I work. So when I was in Thailand. Actually, I wasn't working that intensely, but I was on this mastermind for the first part. When I was in Mexico, I was working. I think I had a few days off here and there where I didn't try to do anything. But yeah, I'm getting my laptop out. I'm either working at home. I'm doing client calls because I'm a business coach helping solopreneurs with their marketing and helping them to stand out. And and I'm running, marketing stuff and posting content. I'm doing all the stuff I normally do as a business coach.
Love it. Some good stuff. Anyway, I want to get into today's conversation because I know that I was going to say, and I talked in the introduction about the fact that you used to work for the BBC and you used to work for Deloitte, and and then you decided that you were going to step into the entrepreneurial world, I guess, which was a completely different world. I suppose my first question was like, when you had made that decision of, do you know what, I'm quitting, I'm going to go and, be an entrepreneur, if you like, if that's what you want to call it. Like, was there a sudden trigger or an experience that you realized that you thought, do you know what, corporate life wasn't for me? Well, I don't know. What was the scenario behind that?
I think the truth is I never wanted a job. I never wanted to work. I never wanted to be in an office, really. And but I didn't have that kind of natural entrepreneurial drive as some people have, where they immediately, spin up their first venture. Like I work with a coach in the States, and he was selling eggs at 8 years old and started making money out of that. Made his first million at 17. I'm not one of those people. I was much more conservative in my outlook. I wish I hadn't been, but that's partly what makes me good at helping people break out of the corporate world and become an entrepreneur. I know how difficult it can be. Like people who found it easy, the Richard Bransons of the world, they're very inspiring, but I think they find it hard to understand, like, well, why would you want to stay in a job? So I had a kind of I think most of us have are brought up by parents who probably think that a job is much safer, and I don't know. So I ended up in a job, but I did end up in an interesting one. My first job was doing software for broadcast, for TV broadcast. So I helped to write bits of a caption generator. But you see the thing animating text on the bottom of the screen right here. Basically, that used to take an enormous amount of processing power in the 1980s. Now you can, your watch can do it. That's true. And then it took an entire custom-made device to animate that amount of text, and I wrote some bits of that, and then we created this pioneering system which automated an entire broadcast facility, like a TV studio at the BBC, something like that. And he used a touch screen to emulate all the devices in the studio. So you can basically call up an app and go, I now want to control the cameras. I now want to control the air conditioning. I now want to control the lighting. And that was, 20 years before the iPhone. We didn't have multi-touch. There was no multi-touch then. If you pressed on two places on the iPad touch screen at the same time, it took the average and pressed the middle button, which caused a few problems down at the BBC, I can tell you, because they would do that to press two buttons, and then it would press a random button in the middle. So anyway, I did software, and I quite enjoyed writing software because all I've ever wanted to do is create things. I'm a creative person. And so I liked programming, and I was a bit more nerdy and a bit more introverted then. And then I moved into special effects software and wrote some software that ended up being used at Disney and other places. And then I tried to go freelance for the first time with complete incompetence, and refused to call myself a project manager or a software developer, or, people couldn't work out how to hire me. And someone eventually said, oh, let's just have you run this thing inside a startup. And I went, okay, then. And I insisted on working 3 days a week because I didn't want to work full time. And the guy around the company said, we're not having you 3 days a week. You got to be full time. And I went, and I sent them his final email, right? And I was in a financial hole by that point because I'd not been working for like 6 months or something. I had a bit of a payoff from my previous job. And maybe I'd done some freelance stuff, but I was running out of money, and I basically was staring down, not being able to pay the mortgage. And I still held my ground, and said, look, I can't do full time, but here's the deal. You can have me work 3 days a week. Starting Monday, I'm going to go to all my contacts in the broadcast world, and we're going to start, servicing those contracts and winning projects for you straight away. Are you in? And he went, all right. And I went, well, it worked. I'm good at writing an email. Turns out I'm quite good with words. So when I'm writing anyway. And so he said, look, you can do this for 6 months, then you're going to have to go full time. You're going to have to become an employee. I went, all right, I'll take that deal. And in the end, he left it for a year. And then he said, come on, you got to be an employee. And I did end up being an employee for 1 year. And because it was a really cool company. It was this was a long time ago. I mean, for me, it feels like yesterday, but for normal younger humans, it was 2002.
Yeah.
2001. And unfortunately, 9/11 killed off the business. 9/11, the dot-com crash killed off the startup, because we were a startup incubator.
Got it.
And so our model was bringing startups from America to the UK, and that all went down the toilet. So I ended up at Deloitte. Deloitte bought our team, and we moved as a team. And then I realized very quickly, it's like I felt like they'd done a sort of bait and switch, because they interviewed us at the coolest building Deloitte owns. And then they said, turn up on day one at this other building, and it would look like something out of my nightmares, like out of Brazil, the movie, everyone knows that. Sort of like the most depressing work environment ever, with like marble walls and just depressed.
Oh God.
Like Office Space is also a classic movie, taking the piss out of those things. And I've made a terrible error. And after a year, I just said, look, I've got to leave this place, because I was the rest of my team we'd gone in there to sell pioneering things to broadcasters, and we realized that it just wasn't going to work yet, because Deloitte was so expensive. Like my daily rate 20 years ago was £3,000 a day.
Damn.
That was what Deloitte was charging. I mean, I was getting paid
Right.
well. I didn't get paid that.
Yeah.
And they said, and I said, look, let me go, and I can go work independently, and I think the BBC will hire me and other people, because I can charge, a third of my Deloitte rate and still get paid really well. I can get paid £1,000 a day, and or not even that. I was shooting for 600 a day, and it worked. They let me go, and I went independent and consulted to the BBC and Accenture and Siemens. And Österreicher Radiofunk, I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but that's the Austrian national broadcaster and the South African broadcaster. And I consulted on technical transformation when they were moving from tape to digital, basically. Which, when I mention that now, people go like, "Oh my God, are you dinosaur?" But like, I was really pioneering at the time. So that was, and then what I really wanted to do is what I realized actually was, what do I really want to do? I actually want to just play all day and get paid. I just want to do whatever interests me and get paid for it. And now that's what the Ideas Lab is, really. I just create cool shit with people. And I'm working with people. Like I was talking to someone today who's a therapist, and she booked a thing with me to work on her business. And she's got some really interesting strategies that have a really powerful transformational effect on people very quickly. And she's not making enough money out of it right now. She should be making, I mean, if she wanted to, she could make millions per year. So I was giving at least the first few steps to start to make a really good income. And we're coming up with the name, and like, how do we position it? And then what do we put on the website? And what do we call her? And it feels like I'm making things with Play-Doh. So it feels like I'm just playing. And then when it works, it's brilliant, because I can point to it and say, look, that, I've got clients who've, created things that are out in the world that are working, that are having an impact on people, and they're making money from them. And I've got clients who I've helped with their books, and they've, have had #1 books, and they're interviewed in the press and TV. So that's very rewarding for me. It's great fun.
Love that. It's a lovely, compelling story. I love that. Some good stuff. That's good intro. Book.
Yes.
Hold up your book. I want to see a book. Let's take a look at the Holy Grail. There it is. Fuck work, let's play.
Let's play. If we're being polite about it, do what you love and get paid for it.
Exactly.
And this is a new version of a book that used to be called Screw Work, Let's Play, that came out in 2010. And it's now been translated into 9 or 10 languages. I can't remember. And it was recommended by Sunday Times, and WHSmith made it Business Book of the Month, and then they made it Non-Fiction Book of the Month. And so it's done really well. And I felt like at the beginning of the pandemic, I was in Thailand, and I'd pitched to Pearson doing a new version of this book. And and they said yes. And they said, but you've got to do it for this date, because if you do it for this date, and I'm not very good at doing things on time, as they know, they said, if you do it for this date, WHSmith will make it Business Book of the Month. Like they've seen the original book, so they're happy with the book. They need it, but it needs, because if you don't do it for this day, we can't get it done and get it to the shops. And we said, so if you don't do it, you got to give your fucking money back. So, because they're paying me in advance. Right? So that's the kind of level of deadline I need to get stuff done. Right. So I went to Thailand, and I procrastinated all over Christmas when I should have been writing, really. And then I ended up in Thailand with 9 days available to rewrite a 65,000 word book.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah. So, it's like a train coming down the tracks. And if I don't make this deadline, it's like I've got to repay. I've lost everything. I've got to repay the advance, and I've lost my chance to be Business Book of the Month. So, and probably, destroy my reputation, Pearson, forever. So fortunately, I did it on time, but I sort of documented it a bit on Facebook. and I took photos of. There's a photo of me with my helmet on, sitting on my moped, going like, "It's day 4. I've got chapter 4 to do today." And like, let's hope I can do it. And people got quite excited about that, and I did do it in the end. And that included re-interviewing all the people. There are lots of stories in this book, which is often people's favorite part, of people who started with a playful idea, and it evolved into something huge. So I interviewed these guys called Sam Bumpus and Parr is their brand name.
Okay.
Is it Sam Parr, but Harry Bumpus? I can't remember which way around it is. Anyway, but they're amazing guys, and they were doing bizarre experiments with food. And I met them in 2009, and they were making breathable cocktails and novelty jellies. So we had a breathable gin and tonic. You go into this room, and you have to put it on like a Mac so that all your clothing doesn't smell of gin and tonic afterwards. And you stand in the room with a bit of music, you're chatting to people, and you slowly get drunk just breathing it in. And yeah. And so they were
sign me up.
Wacky experiments with food, and they had novelty jellies. They did jellies in the shape of famous London buildings, and had a big launch. They've done all sorts of things. And when I caught up with them, they said, "Oh yeah, we now run a 12-person flavor studio, and we work with the biggest brands in the world. So we've got this office. This is our office now. We've worked with like Hilton and L'Oreal, and I can't even remember the names, but Hilton was one of them. They made like the world's first vegan hotel suite, and they've worked with really big food and drink brands, and they've done the most bizarre things. They really are playing." And similarly, there were 2 guys who read my first book, and that partly inspired them to create the world's first healthy ice cream. And that's now become incredibly successful as well. And it's called Oppo. And I interviewed them, caught up with them, and I interviewed a woman who started by coincidence, a few of them are food related. She started a food truck driving around to festivals selling hot chocolate, gourmet hot chocolate. And then after that, she said, all of us people with food trucks should get together. So she created a thing called, I think it was that the first one? Eat Street. And Eat Street allowed you to book a whole bunch of these vans. So now you know it's really huge. There are loads of places where they just get like 20 vans to turn up with good food. And she pioneered that in the UK. And then she started a food accelerator called Curb Food. And so from that original idea of like, I'm going to drive around in this converted camper van selling hot chocolate, she became the driving force of street food in the UK. And so what I'm saying in the book is you can just play things out. You can follow things that you have a passion for, not know where they're going, not know if they're going to pay off necessarily. Don't quit your job if you need an income. Do it on the side and see, like, A, do I enjoy this? Where do I want to go with this? And B, is the market responding to this? And so, you said at the beginning, how do you do what you love and get paid for it? You got to find all these. We all love a number of different things. We're trying to. The trick is to find one of these things you love, or a number of them you can combine, and do them in a way where it meets a need that the market has. And when you can do that, then you can have a business as a result. And that's what the book's about. It includes stuff about marketing and social media and how to choose which idea to pursue and everything else.
There's an element of what was I going to say to you? There was an element of I suppose quirkiness with the types of people that you interview, because who think about creating some of the examples that you use, like the healthy ice cream. I mean, what the hell? I mean, what ice cream is healthy in this world? I mean, normally it's just full of sugar. Anyway, I digress. But there's this kind of element of
story. You got to read their story, because they came up with the idea when they were starving in, what country was it? In Brazil. because they were
right,
going
okay.
on this harebrained scheme to kite surf the coastline of Brazil, I think it was, and halfway through they ran out of food and they had to start eating stuff off trees. And they went like, "Oh, this stuff tastes amazing!" And they discovered this stuff they were eating had was really rich in vitamins. They were superfoods. And they said,
Yeah.
"Why can't dessert taste like this? Why can't we make, I don't know what, an ice cream that tastes like this?" And now they say, we don't call it healthy ice cream, but it's healthier ice cream. So it has a sweetener that's very natural, but is low calorie. And then they have a whole bunch of stuff in there that's actually rather good for you. And then the cream is not dairy and, all this kind of stuff. So anyway, it's a great story.
Good stuff. Very good stories. Well, for you guys that are listening to me and John, if you have any questions around play fun and in your business and stuff like that, and maybe you'd like to have more fun and play, and you'd like to get paid for being to play, but you're just not sure how, you've been trying to figure out the secret blueprint or formula, then I suggest put a question below or reach out to John personally. Anyway, I want to sort of get into sort of the whole kind of like the premise of the whole kind of play thing, because I was going to say to you, what would you say, like, when people come to you, especially based on the premise of the book and stuff like that, because I love the title, by the way, what do you think are some of their kind of like, what you found in terms of their common mistakes? Like, they have this big idea, or they have a purpose, or they've made a discovery. It sounds quirky, it sounds experimental, inquisitive, or whatever it might be, and they want to make something out of it. But you can see that they've got something there, but you can also see that they're self-sabotaging, or they're making some common mistake that you're saying, no, do not go down that road. Otherwise, it's going to come down like a ton of bricks. What have you found based on some of the conversations over the last 20 years based on that?
Yeah, I think it occurred to me the other day that the problem is not when people create something that only they like. The problem is when people create something no one likes. And I interviewed, even they wouldn't buy it. And because you look at some people's websites and you just go like, A, I don't know what the fuck you do. Like, what is this waffle? And B, like, if you were presented with that waffle, would you go, oh shit, yeah, I really want to buy this? You wouldn't. So I don't mean to be nasty, but I mean, I'm a little bit more gentle when I talk to clients. But, we all do this. We all do. I mean, I've done it. I'm always making mistakes, and first attempt at something is pretty stupid. So you have to realize that it takes iteration to make something work. But I think when people really come up with something stupid, they're not. If they made it for themselves, they'd actually, I think they do a lot better. What they do is they make it for, like, I don't know, I'm going to make a thing that I think will sell. And they're not really thinking about a specific target market. They're not thinking, what would I buy? You end up with this weird beast in between that nobody wants. That's very vague and like weird shaped kind of proposition, and it's never going to sell. So I think that's one of them. I mean, the other thing is that people refuse to choose. So they just think, well, I'll start a business when I finally found the right idea or something, or I haven't found the idea yet. Or they make it so big that they think, well, I can't do this unless I quit my job and sell the house and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not an advocate of that. I don't think you should do that. And the solution in the book, in Secret 3, I think it is a play project, so a 30-day play project. And what you should do is take something that you want to create in the world, or take something you're interested in, or you think you might be interested in, because there are phases in finding and monetizing your kind of the thing you really want to do. Part of it is finding out, what do I want to do? Because until you do it, you're not sure. You might think, I really like writing. And then when you spend 8 hours on your own writing, you might find it makes you miserable. So you have to try it. The only way to find out, you can't work it out by just thinking about it. So school has sort of primed us to think that you can work everything out just by thinking it through. But it works for maths problems. It doesn't work for life decisions. You've got to play it out. So one of the ways you do that is you go like, if you think, well, I think I'd like to write a book, and you never get around to it, go, okay, if it's a non-fiction book, because that's what I specialize in helping people with when I get involved with books. Write a blog on your own website, on LinkedIn, on Medium, on whatever is hot this week, Substack, whatever. By the time this goes out, it might have changed. And write 2 blog posts a week. This is lightweight. Write 2 blog posts a week over 30 days and about the topic you're going to cover in the book. And just see how it goes down. See how you like writing it. See how much clearer. By the end of that period, you'll be so much clearer what your book is about, what you're really trying to say. You'll be clear which bits get people excited and which bits don't. And it's often not what you think. So, you think like, I don't know, you may have experienced this on social media. You write some brilliant brilliant instructional thing, you think this is going to change people's lives, and everyone just goes, nobody likes it, right? And then you post something like a picture of your frigging sandwich and make a joke about it, or something, you make some point that's like, life is like a sandwich sometimes, and you post it without thinking, and suddenly it goes viral. And that's what life is. That's what entrepreneurship is like. You can't really tell until you put it out there. So you put out 10 blog posts and suddenly one of them really catches, and you go like, actually, I think this is what the book is about. So that's an example of a 30-day play project. And similarly, if you the example I use, I don't think it's in this book, I think it's in another book called Screw Up Break, but I gave an example that I often quote of somebody who did a program I used to do where everyone did a 30-day play project together. We'd have up to 300 people at a time from around the world, creating something and putting it out into the world in 30 days. And it was called the 30-day challenge. And about 1,500 people did it all in all. And this woman, Saskia, came along, decided she wanted to be a photographer, followed my kind of guidelines to super niche. It's one of the things I talk about. Be very specific what you want to do. She said, I want to be a dating profile photographer. So I want to help people take better photos for Tinder and Match.com or whatever else. Nice. And rather than going, oh, I need a website and I need to plan a business plan, she just did what I advised, which is she said to these 300 people on the course, who would like to have their photos taken for free for a dating site in exchange for a testimonial? And the woman said, yep, I would like to do that. Woman had her photos taken. Saskia, took some great photos. She gave a great testimonial. Saskia said to her, who do you know who'd be willing to pay 170 quid or whatever it was back then? It's more now. And she said, oh, my cousin needs you. So puts her in touch with the cousin. Cousin pays her 170 quid, gets another testimonial. Now she's got her first paying customer. That's a business. Well, then she builds a website. Now, since then, she's been in every newspaper and magazine. She's won multiple awards. She's got 15 photographers under her all over the world, like across America and across the UK particularly. And it started with her saying, who wants their photos taken for free? And that's the power of a play project rather than sitting around Googling shit. And, because people go, I need to research it. Go, you're looking for reasons why it won't work. Let's be honest. So stop Googling stuff and just get the fuck on with it. And what really matters is the interaction. What we're doing is we're proving that you can create value for people. And that is really what you're trying to prove. And you're trying to find what the startup world calls product market fit. So if I describe it in this way and price it this way for this particular market, do people go like, oh yeah, I want that? And then when you do, the rest is all fairly, like how do I get loads of leads? That's just like mechanics. It's just like run ads, put out content, do partnerships. That's basically it.
I love it, love it, love it. You know what? I think that's a really great gold nugget, especially for you guys that are listening in, by the way, you know, to give something away for free, but then thinking about the bigger picture, right? So you take the short-term hit in order to get the long-term gain.
Yeah.
You know, it's and also, you know, I was talking about this in a LinkedIn post today. And so I put out this LinkedIn post this morning, and someone had given me a really nice testimonial. And I just sort of asked the question, like, who really utilizes the power of testimonials? It's 10 times more powerful when someone speaks to you rather than you speak at yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, good stuff like that. Good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about, I know that, I mean, you did quite a few interviews for the book. Was there anyone in particular that really stood out for you that was kind of like, they're a little bit different, or they're, you know, I don't know, is there any one business that really, I mean, you've given us some great examples already, but was there one or two that you thought, you know what, this is completely uncharted territory here? We might be a little bit unconventional in the way that or unorthodox in our approach, but the idea is absolutely amazing. Was there any big story that came out off the back of that? Maybe it was from a rags to riches story, I don't know. Was there anything that come off your mind?
Well, you know, there's so many of them. I mean, I love the stories in here. I always, you know, when I read books, I love the stories that start from, you know, this person's unheard of to becoming really famous. I mean, one of them in here is about Leslie Scott, who a friend put me in touch with. She created Jenga, and everyone's heard of Jenga, the game with the blocks. And yeah, she was in her 20s then. So this is maybe 40 years ago, maybe more.
Long time ago, wow.
And she borrowed her baby brother's wooden bricks and kind of played around with them. And she thought this will make a good game. And she took them down to some local golf club or somewhere and got people to play it. And people went, this is really good. This is like, we want to do this. Let's do this all, you know, on Saturday night or whatever. Let's play this game. And you know, she then, I mean, she went through quite a journey where she basically ended up so broke at one point. And she was trying to, you know, do a deal with, I don't know if it's Hasbro or wherever, one of those big games companies. And she ended up having her car repossessed at one point. And she said, when the guy came around to repossess her car, she was perfectly polite. And she said, oh, really? Oh, I quite like that car. That's a shame. You want to have a cup of tea before you take it? And he goes, okay. So he had a cup of tea with her and then took the car, and she goes like, I guess I'll be on the bus now. And then, you know, a little while later, she actually got the deal. And Jenga is the number 3 biggest selling game in the world. So it goes, it's Monopoly. I don't know if it's Monopoly, chess, and Jenga.
Yeah, Monopoly.
Basically, it's in the top 3 permanently, and it's in the global psyche. And I think one of the interesting lessons, okay, she went through some major hardship, but one of the interesting lessons is that a lot of people come across a good idea and they don't realize it. I mean, every bloody week I have somebody who's got a good idea, and I don't know. I tell them they've got a really good idea, and they go like, oh yeah, right. I go like, no, you don't understand. This is really good. And we go like, oh, I guess so. So that does get frustrating, because sometimes all that happens with entrepreneurs who are successful is they see something, they go like, oh, this is getting traction. The people like this, like Leslie did, and they run with it. And that's the only difference. I tell you, I've seen so many. We've all done it probably, where we've had an idea and we go like, oh, I bet it'd be good if somebody did this. And then you don't. And then somebody else does it and they become a bazillionaire. And you go like, oh, maybe I should have pursued that. So yeah, maybe I should have. So the answer instead is to take that idea and do a 30-day play project, if nothing else. And if it goes nowhere, or if you feel like, oh, I just don't want to do this, you know, I can see it working, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Then leave it at the end of 30 days, hand it on to somebody else, partner with somebody else, help them, get them to do some of the work, whatever it might be, or just, have fun with it for 30 days and leave it alone.
When you say, because I mean, you've given us some great stories about play projects and stuff, but okay, so say I'm one of the listeners, or a number of listeners are like, oh, this sounds kind of an exciting thing, a play project. Like, where do I need to start? Do I need to start from if I have an existing business, or is this a startup thing? What's your thoughts there? Do I need to be at a certain point?
No, but it takes a different form according to where you are. So if you've got an existing business, and you're thinking, like, for instance, say you're thinking of niching, or you're thinking of launching a course around a particular topic, but you're nervous about pivoting your whole business to match, then what you can do instead is you can run a play project, and you could say for 30 days, I'm really passionate about this topic of X. So I'm going to share content on social media and help you if this is, and see how many people I can help. And for 30 days, you put out content and you see, does this resonate with people? Do people get excited? If you're suddenly finding, but you're getting a lot more response than you normally get, that's a good sign. Then what you might do is you might run a free thing or a cheap thing that is around this topic. And if you find it's the easiest thing you've ever sold, you go like, well, there's something going on here. Clearly, I'm pushing on an open door. There's a demand that isn't being tapped by other people very well. And that's when you can do something really interesting. That's if you've got an existing business. Right at the opposite end, later, by the way, of course, if you can decide to pivot your entire business around that once you've proven it. Right at the other end, you go like, I don't even know what to start. Then the solution is just come up with 10, 20 ideas. Don't filter. It tells you how to do this in the book. Don't filter yourself while you're generating ideas. Just come up with as many as you can, and there's exercises in there to help you do that. Then the next day, evaluate them and go, okay, what are the 3 best ideas that I might actually want to pursue for a play project? And there's you can get if you go to the website for the book, which is fworkletsplay.com, you can download a worksheet to help you choose, like a spreadsheet thing. And then you can like choose one and go, okay, I'm going to do this in a play project. And if you don't know whether you'd enjoy it, you can use a play project to find out if you'd even enjoy it. And if you do know you'd enjoy it, you go like, I'd love to do this. I'd love to work with people in this way, or I'd love to, whatever it is, create a play project that tests the interest in the market, because you already know that you want to do it, but let's test out the market. So there's different ways of doing it according to where you are in your journey, but it's a useful concept, whatever you're doing.
Love it. Some good stuff that. Well, I know that we're coming towards the end of our wonderful discussion. For you guys, I hope you've been enjoying me and John's conversations. If you, again, have any questions, feel free to put those in the comment section below as well. And if you're listening to us on LinkedIn and on YouTube, make sure that you subscribed or followed me and hit that all notifications so that when we go live with any content, then you can chime in. Anyway, last question before we go, John. What is the next book coming out, by the way?
I'm working on it. I just handed my proposal into my agent this morning for what I hope will be the 4th book, and I'm looking for a deal with Pearson. We'll see what happens, and I'll say more about that later.
Very good. Awesome. No, that's good. Well, I'm glad that we had this awesome conversation, and I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to catch up. So I want to say thanks very much for such a wonderful chat.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And anyone who's watching this on LinkedIn, I'm quite active on LinkedIn these days. John Spencer Williams, I'll comment underneath this anyway. And feel free to connect. I'm a complete connection floozy, so I'll connect with anybody.
That's good. So if you guys hope you enjoyed today's conversations, if you've been listening to this on the podcast, make sure you feel free to connect with John over on social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also check out his book. They're in 10 different languages, we believe, and in and around the world. There it is, Fuck Work, Let's Play. Make sure you go check that out all around the world. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's amazing show. Hopefully you'll also come back and listen in for some more Game Changers experience. So from me and John, thanks very much. And we appreciate your time today. Take care and have a great day. See you soon. See you soon. Cheers.